Good evening, everybody, and welcome back to 86 After Dark. I am your host, Buffalo Bob, and I am here with my co-host, Mr. Damian Micron, aka The Great Dame. And tonight we are joined by the number one Islanders all-time penalty leader. I pronounce it for you guys, Mick Vukota, aka The Quick. Mick Vukota, welcome to the show. It is an absolute honor to have you here tonight.
Hey, fellas, thank you for having me. I'm excited to be here. Thank you.
Absolutely. How the hell have you been lately?
Yeah, good. I'm, out in the Northeast, freezing my ass off like everybody else, dealing with the elements. But other than that, everything's great.
Definitely. How about you, Damian?
I'm doing good. Like I said, I'm trying not to blow away here in Buffalo. So we had like 70, 80 mile an hour winds yesterday, and it seems to be back here again tonight. So hopefully I don't lose power.
Yeah, that's the worst.
It's that lake effect, Dave, right? It's that lake effect stuff.
Yeah, and I'm right in the band, so I get a lot. So I think we got 9 or 10 feet the one time, so it was fun.
9 or 10.
Yep.
Yeah, they talk about that lake effect being crazy.
Yeah, is it always like that in terms of like the weather compared to like Buffalo, compared to like that downstairs in Massachusetts, Mick, by any means?
Yeah, we get a lot. It's trickle down, like a lot of what Buffalo gets. So where I live out in Martha's Vineyard, we're an island out, a little bit off the Cape, and the ocean effect helps with the weather, temperature wise. Like we don't get lake effect stuff. Like it's leaving us, and the ocean is warming it up. So sometimes we get spared. We don't quite get what Buffalo gets, but a lot of those nor'easters just work their way down, and yeah, you get pummeled pretty good. I'm from Saskatchewan, so I tried to explain to my dad once that I was cold, and he called me a pussy and said you were riding snowmobiles in minus 60-degree weather when you were a kid, with no hat. I go, yeah, well, East Coast weather, it's a little different.
Yeah, as I was going to say, if you're from Saskatchewan then or Saskatoon in that region, you're probably used to the cold by that point.
I am, and I tell you, I'll take this to my grave. The moisture in the East Coast weather, that stuff gets in your bones. When you get that cold, wet in your bones, you can't. I don't care what you do, what you wear, how many layers. We've skied up in New York, northern New York, and that dry air is a big difference than when you get out onto the on the coastline, go up to Sunday River or up in Maine, and it's different. It's just a different cold.
Oh yeah, no. I mean, I love the cold. I mean, I don't like the summer very much, but for me, like autumn is my favorite time of the year because hockey, football is starting, and then the weather starts to cool down, and you have comfortable weather like hoodie wise and things like that. I love it in general, but some people like the cold, some people don't. It's just a personal preference, I guess.
Yeah, I think as you get older, I don't know about Dame, but like I'm all. I had big 4-wheel drive trucks with plows, and I'm like, yeah, snow, let's make some money, let's have some fun. Now I'm like, is there a flight to Florida?
Yep, that's how I feel as I'm getting older, because I'm approaching 50, and I used to love to go skiing, used to love to go out, play pond hockey. Now I'm just like, is it summer yet?
Yeah. No, I feel you. And I think that's part of us definitely getting older, where it was fine and it was fun. And now you mean I can sit around a pool, read a book, and have a cocktail? Sounds pretty appealing.
Yeah, certainly. Certainly. But I guess, to kick things off, because we love talking about the weather, I guess, I know. It's actually kind of funny in a way. I appreciate that, though, with the weather and all that shit. But as far as, like, your name is obviously Mick Vukota, but in your birth certificate, it says Marinko, and you obviously have a Serbian heritage. But the question that comes to mind, and I don't know if you've ever been asked this, I'm sure you've answered it before, is where does the nickname Mick come from?
Well, that's a really good question. I don't think it's ever been asked. And it literally was my parents moved, built a new house. My dad was a builder, built a new house in a new area. and I had to go to a different school. And my whole life, like up until 6th grade, my whole life, I was called Marinko. And I went to this new school, and they asked, my parents were working. I had to fill out like the, name, address. And she said, "What's your name?" And I'm like, "Mick." Literally just came out of my mouth. And she said, "Mike?" And I go, "No, Mick." And okay. And then that was it. So they wrote Mick down on my class list. And that's kind of how it happened. I know it's not very interesting, but it's literally like I just decided at that moment I was tired of being this kid named Marinko that played the accordion, had no siblings. I'm an only child, and had to fight in and out of school every day. I just thought, like, I'll throw Mick out there and see what happens. And they must have thought I was Irish or had a big family, and they just kind of cut me some slack.
Right. I mean, it's kind of a cool nickname, though, honestly, because I don't know if you ever came up with the inspiration from like Mickey Mouse or something like that. Because my nephew's name is Mickey, and sometimes I call him Mick, not because it was based off of you or anything, but it was like if I get mad or if I'm calling him or if he doesn't hear me, I'll be like, "Mick, get over here," or something like that. And he's 4, so it's like he's wandering around the house and all that shit, and I'm just
Sure.
like, "Mick, get over here! I got to tell you something." So I just think that's pretty interesting from that perspective.
Yeah, no, and honestly, like it was that easy for me. But as it went on, like I don't know who did Mick the Quick. I think it was Jigs McDonald. It was Jigs and Eddie for sure on the broadcast. And I remember the fight. It was Kevin McGuire from Buffalo at home. We were out of the playoffs. It was like it was probably our last home game of the season, knowing we weren't going to make the playoffs. And Kevin McGuire took choked up and two-handed Mike Stevens, who was just called up from the minors. And I saw it out of the corner of my eye, and I just flew over there, dropped the gloves. Kevin was a tough guy. And I think it was Jigs was like, "And Mick the Quick jumps right in," and then all of a sudden, they're like, "Mick the Quick," but I think it was Jigs that came up with that one.
And it's funny because we actually got to know Jigs very well, me and Damian, and we did an interview with Jigs a few months ago. Very nice guy. And I will be the first one to tell you live on camera that Damian was squealing like a little fangirl when we met with Jigs.
Well,
He's
that
like,
was
"Oh
that was my
God."
first interview, man.
Yeah, it was. But no, Jigs was cool though in general. He's a very nice guy. But
Yeah.
no, and the other one we did was Darius Kasparaitis, and I obviously know you were teammates with him for a while, so I'm sure you guys go back a while.
Yeah, I have lots of Casper stories. They're all good. A guy loved Darius. I thought he was brash, cocky. I'm like, I got to save this kid. And then I realized, like, he doesn't need saving. He's absolutely what his personality. He's confident. He's a little cocky, but he's fearless. And I mean, you can't teach that.
No.
I coach U12, or I'm part of a coaching group, and I've got older boys that I help coach, and you can't teach that. Like, someone has it. Like, Casper was fearless. Where he found that, how he developed that, you'd have to. Yeah, I'm sure he doesn't even understand sometimes, because he's not a big man stature wise, but he plays as big as anybody that I've ever had a teammate. As a teammate, Casper is just fearless.
Definitely. I loved Casper, but I also loved you playing for the Islanders in the 90s and throughout those years in the mid 90s, late 90s. I loved watching you fight in general. So you and Casper were big influences to why I became an Islander fan in the first place. Having to be born and raised in Long Island, I was an Islander fan. I just want to give my flowers to you too.
I appreciate that. And plus, I never went and played for the Rangers. So, I mean, I would retire before I ever put on a jersey that, on the other side of the tunnel.
Yeah, because I became an Islander fan in '92. because I used to live out on Long Island until I moved up to Buffalo. But like rollerblades became like a big thing, that big ticket item that everybody wanted for Christmas that year. So every one of us got rollerblades for Christmas, and we'd be out on the road playing street hockey. That's what really got us into hockey, because we were more just baseball before that.
Yeah.
But a story that always stuck out to me was a friend of mine. He was a Pittsburgh Penguins fan, big time bullshit artist. He used to lie about everything. But we got to talking about you, Mick Vukota. And he was like, oh, if Mick Vukota came out here, I'd pass and score all over his ass. And I'm just like, if Mick Vukota came out here, he'd be the second coming of Wayne Gretzky. He'd be going all over us right now. And in fact, you scored a hat trick before, which is just amazing.
Yeah. No, I thought it was changing my life, to be honest with you. 3 goals in 5 minutes. And I was sitting on the bus to the plane leaving Washington. It was in Washington, D.C. And I was just, dollar signs were dancing through my head. I'm like, can you imagine 3 goals in 5 minutes? I scored 40 goals. You're making mills. Like, you're writing your own ticket. And then around Christmas, I still had 3 goals. I was like, 20 is not a bad, 20 goals, 200 minutes, reliable. You make a couple mil. And then February, I was like, oh man, you got to score one more. Like,
Cizikas got the 21 year.
Yeah. Who did?
Cizikas got the 21 year.
Yeah. I think that was my number around Christmas in my head. I finished with 4. So, wah, wah, wah. Reality was, I was at the right place at the right time for a period. It just so happened that the Capitals invited me to camp as a free agent the year before I turned pro with the Islanders. And it's ironic. All the teams, all the games I score in Washington who didn't want me. So I went to their camp. I had a guy represent me, an agent. And he said, I was undrafted. And he said, we've got a couple teams interested. Philadelphia, the Islanders, and I know you went to Caps camp. They're not super interested, but they'll listen. And so we got a contract offer from the Isles and Philly, basically the same contract, like a minor league and an NHL. And I said, if Washington offers like that contract, I'll go there, because they gave me a tryout when no one else did. And the GM at the time said, I don't think he has that offer. So go ahead and take what you have. And then that was it. Like, they didn't believe that I had an offer. And I took the Islanders offer because Philadelphia had a truckload of tough guys. And I was just going to fall in the middle. Like, I was going to fall into a group of guys that I've been fighting in junior hockey and the minors. I was like, I'll just take my shot with the Islanders. Part of it was their history. Part of it was they really lacked. Clark Gillies had retired. Bobby Nye, Gary Howitt. And I knew they were looking for someone to fill that void. Obviously, I'm not any of those guys. They're legends in my mind. But I knew they needed someone, and I was happy to do that job for them.
Well, we're currently looking for another enforcer right now.
Yeah, I'm not kidding. I watched the game the other night. I sucked at my son's U12 practice tonight, but I thought about it. I'm like, can I get to A to B? But yeah, they definitely, they could use a character player. Obviously, I wasn't as skilled as like Matty Martin and some other guys that have filled that role. But I think they absolutely could use a character guy. They've had them in the past, a lot of good guys, Trevor Gillies. They've had guys come in and do that job. And Yeah, I would say if there's one area of weakness that the Isles need, it's that gritty up front where you don't even have to be that big. I see how these guys now are fearless, and if you stand up for your team, I feel like that's a big deal in today's hockey.
Well, yeah, I mean, what I was gonna say was is that that play that Matt Barzell took the other day on Mason Martin, where he just slashed the
Perfect.
leg or the kneecap or whatever it was, and thank God he didn't get suspended for that because I think the NHL knew what he was doing was the
Yeah.
right thing to do in
It was
general.
just a
Because
love tap. He hardly hit him. Come on.
No,
I
and
mean,
you know what? Guys will tell you there's only one. Like if we're in line doing a drill in practice, you can skate up to me and just take the weight of your stick and drop it on my laces on my foot and buckle me. That's the
Yeah.
only part of your body that has no protection. That tongue is literally like a tongue of a shoe. And if someone walks by and just two hands you on the laces, you might not say anything, but I guarantee you're going back because we used to do it on face-offs all the time. Like just it's a stinger and it goes away and you live to, play another day. But if you get a good two-hand across the top of the laces, it's smart. It's fresh. Um, but I respect Barzal for not. I mean, you don't want him fighting unless he had to. And I think at that point, I'd rather see him walk over and two-hand a guy. I think
I mean,
that's probably the best.
it's a fair argument to make, especially because you don't want to have Barty get hurt, but then someone else has to take his place. I mean, they don't have the Cal Clutterbucks, they don't have the Matty Martins anymore. I mean, they don't have that guy. And you bring up a very good point: is that they need an enforcer to kind of protect Matthew Schaefer at all costs. They need someone like a Tom Wilson, or just to name a few, like a Ryan Reeves or someone like that, to kind of fill in that role, even if it's not long term.
Yeah, and I think there's guys out there. I like the Tom Wilson comparison, which he's never going to be available.
No.
He's a unicorn in the way he plays and what he does. And I don't think you want like that fourth line guy. Like I know they got Rempe in New York. He does nothing for me. Like I'm probably the guy out of Columbus just fought the other night.
Oh God.
You know what I'm thinking about.
Yeah, I don't watch a lot of Columbus games.
That's
Yeah,
honestly
but
why
neither
I
do-
like Gatcombe, because at least he just hits. He's very physical. He's not going to fight per se, but at least he goes out there and hits.
Yeah, no, and I think that's what you want, that physical presence. I think the thing that the intangible that comes into play, it's like when the game gets out of hand, right? So in a 1-1 game, you're not going to do something that's going to jeopardize your team having an opportunity to win that game. And it's something I took a lot of pride in. Granted, Al Arbor probably did a better job managing my ice time, not putting me in those positions to do something stupid to hurt your team in a close game. But I do think there's times and points in games where, I mean, if you watch Tampa Bay, Florida, that rivalry, that's the way they interact. Those are two really good coaches, two really well-coached teams, and they hate each other, much like the Ranger Islanders did for a long time. And yeah, in a 1-1 game, I don't expect anybody to go over and chase Marchment down. But at some point, that game's going to be out of hand. He knows it. We know it. And there's going to be a retribution. And if he doesn't, well, then someone else is going to pay, which is kind of the way it works. Like that's reality. Either you're accountable for your actions, or we can hold somebody else accountable, which
Definitely.
my preference is hold you accountable.
Well, yeah, of course.
Right? Be the guy that you say you are.
Pretty much. Yeah. So Damian, I believe you have the next question for Mr.
Yeah.
Vukota.
So you were part of the first Spokane Chiefs. team after they moved from Kelowna. You became an immediate fan favorite for your forceful style. What was it like being a teenager in a city that was just learning to love junior hockey through your physical play?
Yeah, it was pretty exciting. So that's the Chiefs jersey right behind me. We went from Kelowna to Spokane, like you mentioned, and it was a big transition. Spokane had hockey, a senior team that had won the North American Championship, Canada, U.S., but they were all older guys. They weren't pro; they were semi-pro. They didn't get paid; they got stipends. They all had jobs, but they still had fun playing hockey and got a couple bucks for the weekend to go play games. When we got there as junior hockey, it was tough. Like the people didn't know, you were in high school. So the fans weren't really like, we had a tough time making a connection. We had to do a lot in the community to kind of grow that trust that, hey, I'm going to go spend money on a Monday night and watch Spokane play the Seattle Thunderbirds. At that time, there wasn't the potential first round draft pick playing for the other team or your team. And so it was like watching glorified high school hockey to the people in Spokane. And then once that program developed to where it is now, it's one of the best junior franchises in all of North America. Fan wise, success wise as a team, and then as a destination for people to go, young players to go want to play in Spokane. First class arena, first class ownership, great city. It's very enticing for young hockey players.
So it's pretty much a really nice developmental program, basically, for a young kid from when you were playing at that time, even compared to now.
Yeah, so when I played, everybody wanted to play major junior hockey, which is, the Canadian Junior Hockey League, CHL, Canadian Hockey League. Nobody wanted to play college out of Canada. You can't make it to the NHL. Well, slowly and surely that's changed. And now that it's almost flipped. They'll play junior for a year or two. Then they can now go play collegiate hockey. D1 hockey is amazing against men. Like 17-8, I think McKenna is at Penn State, and he's not having the success he had at junior. But I think it's good for him because he's playing against older men, older guys. And it's what he's going to get introduced to this summer after the draft this fall is you're going to be playing man strength. And there's absolutely no fallacy when it comes to the difference between a 21, 22-year-old and a 26, 28-year-old in your strength and your stability and your knowledge, confidence, all of it.
Right.
So I think collegiate hockey is really on D1 hockey is super entertaining.
Oh yeah, definitely. I'm really glad you brought that up about the whole Gavin McKenna thing because it reminds me of when Austin Matthews got drafted. I remember that he played over in the Swedish Hockey League. I forget what the name of the team he played for. I think it was something Lions. I forget they were called. And Austin Matthews was about 17 or 18 years old when he was coming into the NHL. This was a year before he went to the Leafs. And he's playing against men. And a lot of those players over in that league, in the Swiss league, were about maybe 24, 25, maybe a little older, like 30, 31 at that age rate. And he was the youngest player on that team, and he was arguably the best player on the entire team. And look where that got him now. I mean, I know he's kind of having a down year with injuries and consistency problems and things like that, but he took a lot of stride when he came into the NHL just from playing overseas. And that kind of reminds me of what Gavin McKenna is going through right now.
Yeah, and I agree 100%. And I listened to him in an interview talk about that, and his parents were like, "You're not going to Europe to play against men." And he's like, this is where I want to go. And he went. He said they treated him very well, meaning that, it was about skill, which he had. And so he could demonstrate that. But he did acknowledge, like, you go in the corner and go to lift the guy's stick, and the guy just looks at you, like, leans on it, and you're not moving his stick. You're not getting the puck. And so he had to figure out different ways of having success, which it says a lot about him and even his parents who let him go, because he really went over there and developed a inner confidence on how to succeed, not being as physically capable as everybody else that was there. And he did great. He had a lot of success over there. Talks about it and says it was life-changing as far as his confidence.
Oh yeah, I mean, look what it's turned him into now. It's turned him into a pretty much a superstar in the NHL, and he's up there with like Nathan McKinnon, Jack Eichel, Connor McDavid, and so on. I mean, he's up in that level when he's healthy.
Yeah, and I think that's the other part of it. I think that's the part guys don't like to talk about in the league much anymore is physical health has changed a lot, especially this year with a compressed schedule based, for the Olympics. Guys don't get the rest, and I'm a big proponent of rest. It's a weapon. It's a weapon. As long as you do it, like when I played, rest meant last call at Mulcahy's, right? Like I was Monday night, Sunday night, Thursday, Friday, Saturday. I'm out every night. So I didn't use rest as a weapon. I used rest as an opportunity to go out and have a good time. But guys now, like they have chefs. And, I went in the Islander locker room 2 years ago and I looked for the beer cooler. And the guys are all laughing and they're like, there's no beer cooler. And what are you talking about? After the game, you don't grab a sudsy and maybe a slice of za? Like, what? No, we got a chef. We've got a sushi bar. We got protein drinks. I'm like, is there like tequila in it? No, nothing. Like we're restoring our bodies. I'm like, yeah, I know. So I had to go to the trainer's room to get a beer. The trainers have the coolers.
Jesus Christ.
But it's evolution. It's what these young athletes are doing now. They listen and they talk. So here's an analogy. Wayne Gretzky, Brian Trottier was I believe, and I could be wrong, and you guys can fact check this, but the way the story was told to me, Brian Trottier was the first player to have $1 million contract for a season. And back then, there was no disclosure. No players talked about the three of us, and Wayne Gretzky, 4, sitting in a room. If I asked you what you made, you'd be like, yeah, I'm doing all right. And if I said, how are you doing, Bob? You're like, good. I got a bonus. I hit it. But nobody would disclose the number until Wayne Gretzky asked for $1 million at Edmonton. And Glenn Sather told him, nobody makes $1 million. And just like, because we didn't have cell phones and there was no internet, and word of mouth was that Brian Trottier just signed $1 million a year deal. And so from a friend through a friend, someone got a hold of Trotz and said, Wayne Gretzky's negotiating with Glenn Sather, and they don't believe that you have $1 million contract. And Trotz went to a copy machine of his contract and put it in an envelope and sent snail mail to Gretzky's agent saying, this is my contract. And then Gretzky took it into Sather and said, he makes $1 million. And Sather was like, fine, we'll give you $1 million. And Gretzky said, no, now it's going to cost you more. And I want to believe that he got $1,000,001.
Well, because I think
contract for that year.
Yeah.
Yeah, as I was gonna say, I think is we were talking to Bob Bourne a few weeks ago, and he told us that Trottier, at the time when he was, drafted, he became the first player eligible to be under 18 to be drafted in the first round. So that makes a lot of sense.
Yeah.
At least from that perspective.
Yeah, and then it was like I said back then, disclosure was like a thing. Like the guys didn't, it wasn't a thing. Guys didn't want to tell you what they made for whatever reason. I think it's, they felt like if they told you, then you'd tell somebody. And whereas now, like it's posted, 8 times 8, boom.
Right, which makes sense.
But
yeah, definitely. But you mentioned something earlier about the tryout with the Capitals, and there's been a lot of mixed stories, and you could fact check me on this as well. But I'm actually curious about it because you obviously got multiple offers, from the Islanders, the Capitals, the Flyers, etc. But before signing with the Islanders, though, you had a wild ass training camp with the Caps where you reportedly started up raw during warmups of a rookie game. And what was going on through your head? And what was that calculated move on your end to at least get noticed?
Yeah, so that's the one camp I went to Capitals. I went as a undrafted free agent, and this, who Joe Kosher is?
Yes.
So Joe Kosher played junior in Saskatoon. I went to his junior hockey games. Like just him and Dave Brown were 2 guys on those teams. And, growing up, they were the toughest team ever. I don't remember ever seeing them lose a fight. I'm sure they did, but I never saw it. And I was in a bar and Joe Kosher was in the bar. And it was late at night, and I walked over and I said, "Hey, I'm going to Capitals camp." And he like it was late night last call, so he's like, "Oh man, you got drafted. That's awesome." And I go, "No, I'm not drafted. I'm just going on a tryout." And he just kind of like shrugged his shoulders. He's like, "Oh," and I'm like, "What do you mean?" He goes, "Well, basically, they don't even know your name." And I'm like, "Okay, well, what do I do?" And he goes, "Well, you're going to have to go in there and you're going to have to get them to say your name." And I go, "All right." And I'm listening intently. And I'm like, "All right." He goes, "So there's this guy, Dwight Schofield. You got to go fight him." And I go, "Is he tough?" He goes, "Oh, yeah." I go, "Can I take him?" He goes, "No, he's going to kick the shit out of you." And I go, "Why would I do that?" And he goes, "Because you're going to go back, you're going to fight him again and get the shit kicked out of me." He goes, "Yep. Till you beat him, till they say your name. You just keep going back." And I was like, oh, this is the worst idea. But I slept on this for 2 months every night. Like going to the gym during the day, skating with the guys in the afternoon. And the whole time I'm just like, this guy, I didn't even know what he looks like. So I go to Caps camp. I'm waiting. I got to find out who he is. I'm in the rookie camp, so I'm not intermingling with everybody yet. So the rookies are done our session. I'm waiting. The bus leaves, takes the rookies back to the hotel. I got to see this guy. And all of a sudden, this Monte Carlo SS 454 comes in the parking lot, sideways, fishtails, pulls up right in front. Guy gets out, no shirt, sand, like flip-flops, strolls out, and I look at the plates, and it says Skonan on his plate. And I'm like, Skonan? Like Conan the Barbarian? This guy had no neck, like pimples all over his body. That's all I remember is like, fucking guy's got to be juiced on his, look at him. And he just walked right by me, like nodded, and I was like, holy shit. Please don't be Dwight. It was Dwight Schofield. And I fought him. He beat the shit out of me. I tried to fight him again. He told me, I don't have to waste time with guys like you. And I was like, I ran the goalie. Somebody else fought me. And then we had a rookie game, preseason rookie game. Nobody had said my name. I fought Schofield. I did all this. Nobody had been like, who is this guy? What's your name? Nothing. And so I was like, I got to do something. And so this guy from New Jersey's rookie squad, Anderson, came over and picked the puck up from our side of the red line in warm-up. And I don't know what made me do it. I just grabbed the puck. I went in and shot on their goalie in warm-up. And as soon as I shot the puck, like their whole team came, it was a brawl. And we went, there's no coaches, no referees. It's warm-up, right? Mm-hmm. And we got Europeans, like guys that have never been in. They're like, what the? And we got in the locker room, and the head coach, Brian Murray of the Capitals, came storming in, kicking. What the hell are you guys doing? What's going on? Who started this? And everybody pointed at me. And Brian Murray goes, who the fuck are you? And I go, Mick Vukota. And he goes, Mick Vukota? And he said my name. And I made it. I knew I made it. I didn't make the caps. I didn't do anything. I just got somebody to say my name. And the Capitals, like I said, didn't think I had a shot. The Islanders, God rest his soul, Gary Eamon, Tex Eamon, was a head scout. He's the guy that fought for me. He came and watched me play junior in New Westminster, British Columbia. Like, he's from Saskatchewan, but he drove out there. And he's the one that recommended me to the Islanders. And he's the one that got me the gig. He got me the try.
Yeah, I was gonna say that's definitely a life-changing decision for sure, because picking Long Island is probably going to be the best choice for any athlete, because the stereotype of, oh, I want to go play for the Rangers, but then you go to Long Island, it's like it changes everything for you.
Well, like at that time, like the Isles were still, even though they hadn't won a cup, so this was 87, right? So I think their last cup was 82, 83, 81, 82. And they still had like the mystique. When I got called up from Springfield, we were in first place. We lost to New Jersey in the first round of the playoffs. The first time New Jersey ever made the playoffs. Like, I don't know if you remember, you guys are way too young, but Jersey made the playoffs on the last game of the regular season. And then they played us, and it was back in the Patrick division, and it was 1 versus 4. We were 1, and Jersey beat us in, I think, 6 games. We were at the top still, but we were muddly. Like we weren't like dominant, but point-wise, we had LaFontaine, Flatley, Trotz was still playing, Dennis Potvin was still playing. So it was kind of that transition. And we were still good. But the Devils at that time, like that's when you had Kirk Muller, Johnny McLean, and you had all these young guys that wanted to be what Trotz, Potvin, what they were. That's what these guys were aspiring to. And obviously Ken Danico was there. I was like, Jesus.
Yeah.
Well, that kind of leads into like our next question, because you're still 49th all time in the league for penalty minutes. So what did it mean to wear an Islander jersey, especially during the early 90s era of physical hockey? Because if you look at the top 50 players, almost all of them are from either the 80s or the 90s. It was just that type of game at that time.
Yeah, I mean, well, first of all, representing the Islanders, I've told this story to a lot of people about what Bobby Nystrom means to me. And he's always been great to me, but it was my teammate, Rod Dahlman. We were both rookies going to Islander training camp, and we grew up 30 minutes apart from each other in Saskatchewan, yet we never met. Played against each other in junior a little bit, but he wasn't really like a heavy guy, heavyweight. He'd fight anybody. Anyways, we got to Islander camp, and we were sitting there talking. We're looking at the rookie games, and he's like, I'm going to fight this guy. And I go, okay. I'm going to fight this guy. Like, we're going to fight all the tough guys. just to so they knew that we were willing. And Rod Dahlman and I played in a preseason game against the Montreal Canadiens, and he said, I'm going to fight John Kordick. And I said, okay, well, I'll fight this other guy, Steve Fletcher, the other tough guy. He fought John Kordick. I went out next shift, fought Fletcher, got in the box, and I'm sitting there looking at Rod Dahlman in the box at the Coliseum at home. And he's got blood coming out of the inside of his ear. Like, hey, you go to the penalty box, there's blood everywhere, but not from the inside of the ear. And I go, you all right? And he's like, yeah, I don't know. Like, I don't know. And I kind of freaked out, tapped the glass, trainer came over. He skated across the ice, but he definitely had some type of a head injury from a fight, from getting punched in the face, in the head, and he was bleeding internally. Bobby Nystrom was an assistant coach, took him to the hospital, stayed with him at the hospital, brought him back to his house that night, post-concussion, observation, stayed with him, fed him in the morning, brought him back to the hotel. Like, that's what that precedent of those Islanders set, is the way they treated each other. And you guys have probably heard it a lot. Like, it wasn't about being the most talented team. Those Islander teams were so close. Those guys just loved the island, loved each other, and they loved winning. And they had a lot of fun. Like, I listened to stories of the Stanley Cup parties and parades. Those guys had so much fun without video phones and, without anybody catching you in the, 2 a.m. leaving a bar in Long Island. They just had a great time. And it was a great time to be a Stanley Cup champ on Long Island.
Yeah, definitely, for certain. But I will say for certain that you played a big part on those early 90s teams, because I was born in 1992, because you asked if we weren't old enough at that point. Like,
Yeah.
I was born in 92 in the Eastern Conference Finals against the Canadiens, so I didn't even know what hockey was, in my defense, but I definitely remember watching you in your later years, because that's how I remembered you, because I was about 5 or 6. It was like 97, 98, around that range. But one moment that always stood out to me, because I like to use my free time or whatever. And I was doing it earlier today before the interview. And I remember seeing highlights, because my dad told me the story, was in 89, in early October, I want to say the 20th, you were playing the Capitals, and you mentioned it earlier about the natural hat trick, and you scored one against the team that pretty much told you weren't good enough to play on our team. But as a guy who finished with 17 career total goals, what do you remember most about that quote unquote out of body experience? And did your teammates ever let you live it down, basically?
Well, I think I think my teammates were more happy for me than I was. So I was in shock, right? Like, I'm sure you guys can imagine, like, 3 goals in 5 minutes. Like, literally, like 2 goals in one shift.
Yeah.
Like, everything just, like, you hear people talk about out of body experiences and all that shit. Like, literally, it was beyond my control. It just happened to me. I was the guy. I didn't like walk through the team. Wasn't like I made a great. I just like went to the net with my stick on the ice, off my stick in the net. Great. Another one guy passed me over, hit me in the feet, kicked it up, shot it, went in the net. Third one, the defenseman bobbled the puck, fell down. I went in. The goalie went to play the puck, skated around. Like, there was no highlight reel goals, except it was me. Like, it happened. It chose me that night. But the guys were great. The guys they were more pumped for me than I, like I said, than I was. I was just kind of like, what just happened? And the guys were like, you got, baby, that's you. Like, the boys were I remember Tom Fitzgerald, who's a GM in New Jersey now. There's a clip when I come back to the bench. Fitzy was my center when he first got called up. And he's so much better than babysitting me. And Fitzy is like the happiest guy on the bench in Washington that night, like just shaking me, like, you did it. Like, and you know, that's the stuff that you'll remember. Like, I'll remember that forever. I'm still friends with Tom, but he can't fake that. Like, I've got it on video. I go, you were more happy for me than I was, which is what I love about hockey, is generally guys are more happy for each other than they are themselves. It's what makes that game, in my opinion, the greatest game, is your teammates. And teammates generally celebrate you more than you do, which is the coolest part.
Absolutely. And the funny thing about that is I was watching that clip because I saw it like with the cameras, they pivoted to you and Tommy Fitzgerald at that time. And I remember saying to myself, as I was watching that clip, I'm like, is he ever going to do that again? Because at that point, it's like they look at you and it's like, that's you. You did that.
Yeah. No, and that's literally, I think, how happy they were. I mean, they were just happy. And we won, you know. I think Patty LaFontaine had 2 goals in the game. We won 5-3, and he scored the game winner and the empty net. But it was all good.
Yeah, definitely. Damian, I believe you have the next question for Mr. Vukota.
Yeah, so this one's about the code. It's like you faced a bunch of heavyweights in your era with guys like Rob Ray, Tony Twist, aforementioned Joey Koser. Was there a specific opponent you respected the most because of how they handled themselves during or after a scrap? And who would you say was your toughest opponent?
Yeah, I mean, but I'll say, Dame, like most of the guys that I played against, you know, that 87 and 97 era, most of the guys that did that role, I respected. There's only a couple that I didn't or didn't view like everybody else. So, I mean, Rob Ray and I fought a lot, and the only reason I don't put Rob Ray in there is because he said something to Al Arbor during the course of a game, which I've never had anybody I play against say something to a coach. But, and if they did, I didn't hear it, but nobody talks to Al like that. We don't talk to Al, but like if a teammate said something disrespectful to Al, he'd leave with no teeth. Like we would take him out. So to have an opposing player make and it wasn't like horrible. It was to the effect of, you're old, you should retire. And that I lost it.
That's it. Next time I go to the Sabres game, I'm going to say something to him.
Tell him Mick Vukota doesn't respect you for chirping Al Arbor. And I
used to actually hate that dude when he played, because the jersey used to come off all the time. And
so, yeah, they made a rule. You know, that you had to wear tie downs. But I'll say, in all fairness to Rob, is he's tough. You know, he got tougher. Once they changed the tie down rule, he still fought. Mm-hmm. And he still won fights, and he lost fights, but he fought. Like he's tough. He was a tough player.
I met him a couple times after he retired. He definitely mellowed out as he got older. I think he had a little bit of demons in the past. So I think he's a pretty good, solid dude now.
Yeah. Well, it's a tough tough thing. A lot of guys that do that role, and this is, we don't have to stay on this, but a lot of guys that do that role have demons, only because you go to bed at night and you're thinking, okay, so I didn't answer like the one part of your question, Bob Probert. Like, you know, you're going to Detroit. You know that there's a really good chance you're going to have to fight Bob Probert. And there's nothing that's scary about fighting, except if you can't hurt somebody. Like if you get into a fight and there's no way out, And that's kind of how like Probert was, where I'd seen him get punched right in the face by like a Tony Twist or like really Dave Brown, like tough guys. And he was unfazed. And as a guy trying to go to bed 10 o'clock at night before a game in Detroit, knowing you're going to see him in 24 hours, it's unnerving. And I think a lot of guys use substance, whatever it is, to try and numb like that aspect. And then you just wake up in the morning and you get back at it. So it's not unusual. And I think the other thing is nobody talked about it back then. Like nobody had feelings. God forbid you said, hey, I'm a little nervous. The boy, back then the boys would be like, what's wrong with you? We're counting on you to go through the door. Yeah. So
I'd like a little bit of a happy medium in between, because I feel like today it's all feelings. But
I agree.
Back then, we didn't talk, like you said, you didn't talk about it at all. So I'd like to see something in the middle.
Yeah, I feel like Pat Flatley told me one time, he's Irish and a strong Irish family background. And we were talking about something about like feelings and he just randomly, he would pull up, we were in Centerport at some dive bar one night, and he just randomly pulls out this thought and he goes, you know what I think about feelings? I go, no, what do you mean? What? He goes, I think you should keep them to yourself and shut the fuck up. And I was like, well, I got no issues with my feelings. I don't say shit. And he goes, my sister came to the Christmas dinner table the other night, this past holiday, and she said, I don't like my name. I'm going to change my name. And as of today, my name is going to be this. And the whole table said, Thelma, shut the fuck up, eat your food.
Yep.
There's no feelings, no entertaining the thought. She's not going to be called something else. That's your name. You're keeping your name.
Now I would be saying her name more often. That's just the type of person I am.
Right. So I agree with you in that respect, that like sometimes less is more. Like sometimes I don't think we need to talk about everything. I think sometimes we get it. And it's okay to acknowledge it. Absolutely. But yeah, I concur. I agree with that.
Definitely. But it's funny that you mentioned the whole, prepping for a fight mentality, because naming guys like Bob Probert, Rob Ray, etc., all tough guys, no question about it. But the other thing that plays a part of all this is longevity, and a lot of guys in that era didn't really last that long in the NHL. But you played over 500 games in your time frame, in your era, where enforcers are often had short shelf lives. And what was your secret to staying relevant and keeping a roster spot on Long Island for an entire decade? Like, what's the secret?
So it's not a secret, but I'm sure you guys have heard what's the best availability.
Yeah.
Right. So for me, it was very simplistic. You play hurt a lot. You don't ever want to not be in the lineup, because if you aren't, someone else is. And it's, especially back then, it's just a phone call. Springfield, boom, send somebody. And you never know. We had lots of guys. I was suspended more than I'd like to, acknowledge, but guys would come up. And I think the key to it is being available. And then this is the not interesting part. If you watch all the fights in my career, there's a lot of grab ass fights that aren't good. They're wrestling matches. They're tussles. Sitting on a bench for 2 periods and waiting for a 2-goal deficit or 2-goal lead, knowing that might be your next shift, because you're not playing in a 1-goal game. You're just moving up and down the bench. Oh, 2 goals. Oh, empty netter. Now you're going to go out. So you've sat for an hour, and I'm not invested emotionally in the fight. Like, I'm going out and he's going out because they're losing and we're winning, or vice versa. You're just dropping the gloves without any intent. The best fights you'll see are the ones that are out of like spontaneity. Like, somebody hit somebody did something, somebody bumped the goalie. Yeah, I'm going to kick the shit out of you. Like, that's how it feels. Where other times you're like not even charged for what's going to happen. And I think it's reflective. I think it's a better game now. I feel like more of the guys that fight now are pissed off. And I think they fight like that. Not as much, but maybe that's not the worst thing. I don't know. I mean, I don't like stage stuff. I never liked that. I'd rather, make me fight you, or I'll make you fight me. Like, we'll do it. Like, it's going to happen. However it happens, like, that'll be determined.
So, in a way, just using a quick reference, it's kind of like a shark in water looking for blood.
Yeah, I think if you're looking for blood, I think also it's like, what if there's no blood? Well, you still have to, you're still there, you're still hungry. So how do you create that situation? And sometimes, you got to do things outside, like run a goalie, right? Like, if sometimes you have to do things that are uncomfortable for you as well. But at the end of the day, you're going to get the end result. Like, when you go to practice in the morning, which is kind of the reckoning, after the game, everybody leaves, right? Coaches, fans, players. The next morning you get to the rink, it's just players and coaches. And before you get there where you stand, like on your effort the night before. And I would choose 9 out of 10 times, 9.5 out of 10 times. I'd rather go in with a broken nose, busted up hands, than walk in clean, knowing that I was irrelevant in that game. I didn't have to do anything, but I'd rather go in banged up just so that I felt like I did something, which I don't know if it, had any effect on the outcome of the game, but it definitely was. I'd rather be a part of it than a spectator.
Fair enough. That is
All
fair.
right, well, time to get to the next fun question here. I know we already talked about Al Arbor and how great of a man and a coach he was. But let's go back to the guy that was after him, the asshole we all hate.
Oh, God.
Mike Milbury. So you shared some wild stories about Milbury, from him asking you to fight 3 times in a single preseason game to taking away team meals. Looking back, how did that coaching style affect the locker room chemistry compared to when Al Arbor was there?
Yeah, I mean, I'm absolutely opinionated on that. And it was, I'd never played for anybody like Mike. I'd never played through junior, the minors, and in the NHL. I'd never played for a coach that put himself in the realm of the players, where he was a part of the equation. For me, it was always the coach is the boss, and then the players are the employees, right? You have trainers that are equal. We all work for someone, but we're all a team. So I always considered our trainers and my teammates to kind of be one. Mike kind of came in and just threw everything against the wall and was like, I'm in the middle. Like, it's me and everybody is around me, and you work for me, which he wasn't wrong. He's the head coach at NGM for part of the time. But I didn't understand it, to answer your question. I'd never seen that before. I'd only had coaches that coached players to play for each other, like focus on each other. I'm not going to let you down. Don't let me down. I'd never had a coach where you like looked over your shoulder to see what he thought and if you had his approval. So, like the story about the 3 fights in the preseason game, he said, do you have one more in for me? And I was like, you think I do? Like, I do this for my guys. I've never once, to my downfall, I was like, I've never once thought about you. Like, what are you going to do? Like, how am I going to help you?
We try not to think about him.
Yeah. No, and I think I'll say this, guys that played with Mike say good things about him. Like, I think he was a good teammate. Everything I've heard of guys that have played with him say he was a really good teammate. So I just think as a coach, he had an ego. And I'd never seen that. Like, I'd heard Mike Keenan had an ego. And like, I've heard of different things. Scott Bowman, I heard, was really difficult to play for. But he demanded a lot. And obviously they had success. It's the one thing Mike didn't have was success. He had some in Boston, but I really think it was about the team. And I think that's the part that, people don't separate. Like, a good team will win hockey games. A good coach helps you get in a position to win hockey games.
Yeah. Well, he holds the record for trading away the most future Hall of Famers.
Oh, God.
That's not surprising, is it?
I mean, you got Chara, you got
Luongo.
Luongo, yeah.
Yeah, and he was tough on some young careers. Like, we had really good young talent. Like, I'm a big fan of Todd Bertuzzi, Brian Berard, Brian McCabe, Travis Green, Marty McInnes, Scott LaChance. Those are the young guys. I mean, with Ziggy Palffy. But like the young guys that like were talented, that had really nice NHL careers elsewhere. I mean, that speaks to what he didn't, wasn't able to coach or manage. Because so many guys that he had in his organization went on to have great careers.
Yeah, definitely. But speaking of Al Arbor, because I know we talked a lot about Al Arbor, but you've called him before the most influential person in your adult life. What is one piece of advice or one quote unquote arborism, as they say it, that he gave you that will still carry with you today?
Well, it's the one chance. It's easy. Like, his whole aura is he's a very God-fearing, religious family, like a good husband, father, friend. Like, just everything about him was solid. But for me, I slept in after a team bender, and I was late for practice. And practice was in Syosset at 10:30. And I lived with Derek King at the time, like in a duplex or a mother-daughter type thing. Kinger was gone. Then back when we had answering machines, message light was just flashing. I played the first one, and it's Kinger. He's like, "Where the F are you? Like, we're on the ice in 20 minutes." And I looked at the clock. I'm like, holy shit. So it's 10 o'clock. We're on the ice at 10:30 in Syosset. And I'm in Huntington or Northport, worse. And I go, you know what? This is how I solve problems all the time. I had a convertible IROC. Like, it's all I could afford back then. I had the Italian retard out cruising, convertible, as I was told by girls every night that I went out. And I'm going to just race to practice. I know I'm going to get a ticket because I'm going to just blow through every light, every sign. And then I got an excuse. I got a ticket. I got stopped. Sorry, I'm late. You think I could get stopped from Huntington to Syosset? Like 25A, I'm passing school buses.
Oh, I mean, in this day and age,
Like,
probably.
somebody get a plate. Somebody do something. Nope. So I show up to the rink 8 minutes before practice, and guys are starting to walk out. And I run to the locker room, and I had to go by Al's office to get to the locker room. And I run in there, and I just start getting dressed, and I know, like I can hear the click on the clock. Like I'm gonna just get dressed, go out. I'll worry about tying my skates, and I get there and I'm getting dressed. I smell like booze. I'm like just head down, trying to get through it. And Al walks up, and he's genuinely concerned, and he's like, "I'm never like late. I'm the first one on the ice, and here I am." And he just said, "Are you okay?" And I said, yeah, just, I got to get through this. And he nodded, and then he leaned in the corner to the trainer's room, and he asked the trainer, and he goes, Eddie Tyberski was our trainer. And he goes, Eddie, should he be out there? And Eddie had me in the minors. He's known me for my whole hockey career, like pro career. And Eddie didn't even look at me. He just looked at Al and said, well, he did get a flu shot after the game the other night. And sometimes the flu shot has side effect, like flu-like symptoms. And he said he might be, feeling those. And Al goes, do any of them make you smell like a keg of beer? And I just had my head down. And Eddie goes, no, I don't know. I didn't see that. And no. And he walked by me. He goes, don't be out on the ice after me. And so he was beating me to the ice. I had to run around the rink and go in the public skating entrance and open the door to step on the ice before him. And just tried to get through practice. I said, just blend in on the drill. First drill, I go, just do the drill. Make a pass, get a pass, shoot a puck. Done. And the first time I went around, I snapped one. It got away. And I hit Glenn Healy between the eyes. He wore the stupid Cooper goalie mask. And the screws popped right into his forehead. Blood everywhere. And Heels is screaming at me. And I'm like, I'm not blending in. Like, this is not blending in. Heels, you're not helping me blend in. Heels is like, you dumb F-bomb. So got through practice. Big bag skate at the end. And at the end, the trainer, all the guys are gone. And the trainer goes, Al wants to talk to you. And I go, he's still here? Fuck. I'm done. And he called me in his office, and I sat there and I said, Al, I just, the boys went home. I thought one more, I screwed up. And he just looked at me and he goes, Mick, we all make mistakes in life. It's what we do after that. So here's yours. Here's your one chance. Don't fuck it up. And I walked out of there. I think I fought 8 games in a row against guys that I'm like friends with that we fought, but I was like, we're going to go. He's like, what? Why? I go, we got to go. I got to fight every night. I got in a jam. I got to get out of it. And so I just kept fighting. And then finally he pulled me aside in practice. He's like, you don't owe me anything. Just be a good teammate. And that's exactly what I remember about Al. Like, he won as a player. He won as a coach. He wanted you to experience success with your team. And not to go back at Mike, it's just the difference between in what Al was teaching and what I experienced with Mike were so drastic. Like, I mean, you could think about an employer, a supervisor, or a coworker. Like, just, it was such a different extreme based on what I had experienced and what I liked, which I liked playing for my teammates. I never want to play for, who wants to play for your boss, right? Like, you want to work with your guys, your people. So.
I mean that is a hell of a story, to be quite honest with you. That is probably the craziest story we've ever heard anybody tell about Ann Arbor, even right now. And that's not even being recency biased. That is a hell of a story.
Well, I'm not proud of it, but it was a learning lesson for sure. I mean, I never let Al down again. So, or my teammates, I got in that regard.
Right, and
Well,
that's a fair statement.
yeah, we have a couple more questions for you here before we let you go here. But I really appreciate you coming on tonight and making doing this. I mean, you were like the first enforcer that I remember in hockey. You'll always be the Islanders enforcer, no matter who comes after you, who came before you. You'll always go down as number one in Islander history. You've been a record breaker, a goal scorer, a protector, and now a mentor in the alumni community. If you had to choose one and only one of those roles to be the way the Vukota name is remembered in Islanders history, which one would it be and why?
Well, it would be teammate. Like it would be as a, like the mentor stuff is awesome. And I'm doing it, I don't know, mentorship. I think it's just sharing the experience with youth hockey where I live now in Massachusetts. But I would say like being a good, the teammate part always meant a lot because I think that's stuff that if you ask anybody what they miss the most of the guys that played the game, they all say the room, like the locker room, like the banter, giving each, like it was kind of a joke, but kids and mistresses are off limits, but family and wives are fair game. When you're ripping people, as they come in, like, did your wife dress you? Did your mom put those shoes on you? So you could pick on family, but you could never pick on kids. You're always protective. But that bond, that community of a team, and that's not just players. That's trainers and travel people and public relations. It's like a whole group of people. I would say I'm hopefully well regarded in my relationships that I developed because that would mean the most to me. Like those relationships. I hope that I was a good friend, a good teammate, a good person to work with.
Yeah, that's for certain. But you know what, though, and this is the last question from us, Mick. So we do truly appreciate you coming on tonight to take the time to do this with us. But the last question, and we barely touched on it until the very beginning, is the accordion because you have a history with this instrument, and I would love to know is that allegedly there's a story about you training in an accordion for a hockey career. I mean, look where that got you. But how much truth is there to that? And do you still play the accordion at all?
So I have the accordion downstairs. I'm not going to get it. It's in its case. It's the one my parents bought me when I was like 8. I swear to God, they did this to toughen me up because Eastern Canada, they had a banjo, some guitar, maybe a piano, drums. I sucked at the accordion. I won second place in a recital one time. There were 2 competitors, and that's the extent of my accordion career. I do have it, and I pulled it out, when we're all banged up late night, but I don't play it well. No.
I know Bob plays the banjo, so we can get a little jam
Banjo?
session going on there.
Yeah, I love that. Well, what do you got in the bag?
Well, I've only been playing for a year, so it's not like I am a specialty at it. Is I actually learned how to play the clarinet when I was about 8 or 9, around the same age as you were with the accordion. Banjo came later in my life, so it was something I've always wanted to play, but I just never found the proper person to teach me until like a year ago. So I'm very proud of it, but I still pick it up once in a while when I want to. So I'm not like professionally good at it, but I'm casually good at it.
So is banjo, it's picking more, right, than strumming, or do you do both?
Well, just for the record, I don't play the guitar, so I have no comparison. But it's more about accuracy with the banjo because it's like with your left hand, you're dealing with the neck and with the strings and the tabbing and all that. Your right hand, and there's an interesting factor, is you're using your thumb, your pointer, and your middle finger, and it's a three finger banjo style. Some people play with two. I do three. And what it does is that it maintains, like the thumb takes control of the third and fourth string, and then your pointer takes control of the second string, and then your middle finger takes control of the first. So it's kind of like you're going at a rapid pace, but that takes like years and years and years of training. And I don't have that. But if you watch a lot of, like, for example, like if you look up like Earl Scruggs, who was like the grandfather of the banjo,
Yeah.
if you just watch how Earl Scruggs did, because he has a very unique style, and he was just all about accuracy and consistency, and you're always keeping on pace. So it's not like playing the guitar where you could just strum it down. Like you do have the option to do that with the banjo, but it's not as efficient as with your fingers, if that makes any sense.
No, it does. And then you must realize, like, I'm old enough to remember Hee Haw,
Mm-hmm.
which is Scruggs. Earl and Scruggs are on there with Roy Clark, and no, and you just ruined my whole life because now I'm going to be looking to see what the thumb does every time I see a banjo player, and they're like, "Oh, I see what he's talking about. Look at that."
Yeah,
So,
yeah.
no, that's
So
cool.
But you do have something in common with Buffalo royalty here. Johnny Resnick of the Goo Goo Dolls. He grew up playing the accordion in South Buffalo.
Did he
And
really?
he used to get teased and beat up by the kids, but the elderly people in the neighborhood used to love him. He used to play for tips, and that's how he started his music career.
I love hearing that. That's pretty cool. Yeah, mine was fighting my way home from a bus stop. I wish some elderly people would have intervened, but it worked out.
Yeah, definitely. Yeah. So once again, Mick Vukota, we definitely appreciate the time this evening, and we would love to have you back on at any time. If you want to come on, feel free to join us anytime you want. We'd love to have you again.
Yeah, you guys reach out anytime you want to. We'll do a playoff preview whenever you guys are ready.
Oh,
There we go. I like that idea.
I like that. I like those odds. Definitely. So
Well, I
once
think it's exciting right now. I think if you're, yeah, I mean, there's never been this much parity that I can remember.
No.
Like the Toronto Maple Leafs, I think are 4 points out of last and 2 points in a wild card or whatever. Like every night there's something at stake, which
Even the Buffalo Sabres are back in it. It only took about 10 wins in a row.
no, how are they feeling? How are the fans? I know they had another sellout the other night.
Oh God, the fans here, they're already starting to get cocky. I tell you that right now. So we were just at the game the other week when they lost. Islanders lost in the shootout.
Yeah, was that the game? I think that was the game I watched the other. Was that a 2-1?
Was it 2-1 or
That sounds right.
3-2?
I think it was 3-2, because I know they played
I
the
think it was
Blues.
3-2.
So I was
3-2 in the shootout.
Yeah,
Because Barzal and Heineman both scored.
I watched that game, but I think it's exciting for. I mean,
Oh no, they have great fans. I can never take that away from them. I mean, even through this 14-year playoff drought,
which is
they're
absurd.
still selling out games.
Yeah,
It's
14 years
incredible.
is absurd, though.
It is very absurd.
And I don't know. I don't know Kevin Adams. I just know, like,
Well, he's gone now.
yeah, but like the rinse, repeat. At some point, they had to be like, this is not working. So,
Yeah.
I mean, I think the fact that they made that change definitely, probably more for morale than just like, right? Like it looks like that. The players themselves feel like a weight was lifted off them, and it probably had nothing to do with Kevin as much as everybody's talking.
Well, I just feel once you get that culture of losing in there, because they were trying to tank for McDavid, and that was just a bad situation to begin with. And I was like, you don't want to get that culture of losing in there because it's hard to shake. Because
Absolutely.
I remember like your Islanders in the late '90s. It's like it took a while to shake that losing.
Yeah. No, I
Definitely.
think, as a player, you're winding down. Well, NFL players are talking about it a lot right now, where they're booking flights for
Mhm.
postseason vacations. And teams that are in the postseason talk about not having that mentality, which is, I think, what you're saying, that loser mentality, right? Like, don't accept, like, this is your circumstance. If you still have 2 games to play, go win 2 games and
Mhm.
see where you sit, like, see what happens. Get in the
Yeah.
postseason, anything's possible. I think that in just about any sport. Maybe basketball is a little different, but I feel like hockey, football, even baseball, like once you get in, anybody can get hot. Somebody can just pick you up, throw you on their shoulders, and drag you around.
Yeah, I agree with that, honestly, 100%. I agree with that. So, once again, Mick Vukota, thank you so much for coming on tonight. It is truly an honor to have you. And like I said earlier, we'd love to have you again.
All right, boys, I appreciate it. You have a good night. Stay warm.
You
Yep.
too.
Happy New Year.
Happy New
Yep.
Year to both of you.
Happy New Year to you as well. So, with that being said, with Mick Vukota, I'm Buffalo Bob with Damian Mike Run, and we'll talk to you next year. And see you next time.
Cheers.
Good night.